Hello. Welcome to my channel. That was weird. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Chloe Goodman, also known as the Beauty Queen Barat. I hope I did that right because I've been doing it wrong every single time. Welcome back. Sorry I didn't post last week. My bad to all a million of my subscribers. Anyway, so this week we'll be talking about Malaysia Flight 370. If you haven't heard of it, it's the plane that went missing 7 years ago last month, actually. I believe that was 7 years ago. 7 years ago, how old was I? Oh, 16. I was 16? Oh my god. I thought it was like 12. Jesus. No, I was 15. But still, it's not any better. Anyway, we're gonna be talking about that today. I did dye my hair this awful color. Surprise, you shouldn't color your own hair. You would think I'd need that because I went to beauty school for a while. Didn't finish, dropped out. Now it's just like 4 different shades of pink. We're just gonna go with it. If you hate it, you hate it. Don't know what to tell you. Let's get started. Some disclaimers before we start. All the information that I use in this video is not my own. I found it on the internet, such as like Google, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you find information. I'm not a professional makeup artist. I am an amateur at best, so if this comes out looking like crap, that's why. I have a fan on right now because my room is just incredibly hot for no reason. Early hours of March 8th, 2014, a scheduled passenger flight was getting ready to take off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China. This flight was Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. The flight took off at 12:41 a.m. carrying 227 passengers and 12 members of the crew. Last communication with air traffic control was about 38 minutes after taking off. The plane was over the South China Sea. At 1:25 in the morning, Fareeq Abdul Hamid, who is the co-pilot of Flight 370, radios in to air traffic control, good night Malaysia 370, like the last contact that they have. And this was Fareeq's like last training session as a co-pilot, like he was going on to become a pilot. So at 2:22 in the morning, that's the last time that the plane is picked up by any radar, picked up by the Malaysian military like radar on a base on like the west coast of Malaysia. Air traffic control didn't even notice that the flight had gone off radar for 18 minutes. They also didn't report that a flight was missing to the Kuala Lumpur Rescue Coordination until after 6 a.m. Mind you, the flight took off at 12:41 a.m. and was off radar by 2:22 and had deviated off its course by 1:25. So this is hours after that they're like, oh, something's not right. So 7 minutes after the last communication with air traffic control is when the flight starts to deviate off of its path. It veered drastically to the southwest and then flew back over the Malay Peninsula and then kind of like dipped its shoulder over Penang, Malaysia, which we'll come back to. Headed northwest up the Strait of Malacca and then out across the Andaman Sea. This all took more than an hour to accomplish. After the deviation from the path, plane then cruised on autopilot for several hours. It cruised on autopilot supposedly until it ran out of fuel and then inevitably crashed into the water. This is when investigations started to kind of like come together and be like, all right, like what's going on? It wasn't like a typical plane crash. It wasn't a typical like, oh, a hijack, as awful as that is. It's not a typical, like, it didn't make any sense on what happened. The early search efforts started in the South China Sea, which ended up being thousands of miles off from where the plane had actually deviated to and where it would have actually landed. 34 ships and 28 aircrafts from 7 different countries came together looking in the South China Sea trying to find Flight 370. So after the initial investigation in the South China Sea, it came forth that we're in the complete wrong spot looking for this flight. 3 major investigations started immediately after this was acknowledged. Australia led the main search because they were like the closest to where they thought the plane would be. The crash site ended up, they were believing that it had been about 1,200 miles off the southwest of Perth, and Australia was more well equipped to handle such a large scale search. Nothing was found. This whole case is just like really sad and just like really confusing. Where are these people? Like what, where are they? It's been 7 years. People believe that the time searching the South China Sea really kind of ruined any likelihood of finding any debris and any, you know, just leftover materials of Flight 370 or finding the black boxes. So after 2 months of searching, the team turned to searching like the ocean floor. Mind you, this is one of the deepest, least explored parts of the Indian Ocean. And of course, they didn't find anything. So the investigation lasted 3 years and nothing, surprise, surprise, was ever found. I mean, some debris was found here and there, but they didn't find the full plane. They didn't find any remains. They didn't find anything. Where are these people? Where is this plane? I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this case. Malaysian police conducted their own like internal investigation. So this internal investigation consisted of like looking into all the passengers and the crew and everyone's like background to like make sure there was no act of like terrorism, and everything seemed to check out according to the Malaysian police force. And of course they were unable to determine what happened to Malaysia Airlines 370, as everyone else has concluded they don't know what happened. So the third investigation that was investigating, it was an international inquiry, different aviation specialists from all over the world, and it was just a hot mess from the beginning. They were dealing with an necrotic and just very corrupt Malaysian regime. It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere because they couldn't get any help from the Malaysians, and they just couldn't find anything. So the Malaysian government kind of just wanted to get this like all just not swept under the rug, but they just wanted to get it over with because they had just stuff going on. They also just didn't want their government to look bad, and they didn't want their airline to look bad either. I don't know. I'm probably never gonna book a flight with Malaysia Airlines. I'm just gonna put that out there. And it quickly became obvious that the Malaysian government knew a lot more about what was going on than they first admitted. My best friend's calling me and I'm ignoring it. Sorry, Bailey. So let's go back to Malaysian military radar. You would think, you know, if you were in Canada, if you were in America, if you were in the UK, or in like a country that funds its military more, it would have been, you know, they would have been like, why is this random plane flying into our like territory? Probably would have been shot down or analyzed, I guess would be the right word, to be like, what? So what's going on? Or like at least try to make contact. And so they said, the people at the base said they didn't do this because the flight seemed friendly. Seemed like just a friendly bunch. Just let it go. They did. They did. They just let it fly on by, never to be seen again. I know I'm like going really hard on the Malaysian government. This whole case just really upsets me. I watched a lot of videos of these people's families. There's one girl who both her parents were on the flight, and like as having lost my dad, I couldn't imagine losing both my parents at the same time. First off, you don't know where they are. You can't really bury them. Like you don't have like any closure. That just kind of hits like a really sore spot for me. The Asian government just kind of like neglected their duty to the passengers on this plane and their families. So that's, if I'm digging in, that's why. So the deviation was intentional. It wasn't like it just happened. And the next question is why? I mean, that's the biggest question of all of this, is like, why? So like I said, it cruised on autopilot for several hours. It cruised towards Antarctica. Due to the escalation rate, it's guessed that it was controlled, which means that someone was, surprise, surprise, controlling the plane. The dramatic descent was 15,000 feet per second. Due to the de-escalation at that rate, what would have happened to the plane is it would have smashed and just exploded into millions of pieces, basically just annihilating itself. So they're guessing this was an intentional descent due to the fact that it's 5 times faster than unassisted descent. At the immediate deviation, all the electrical systems in the plane had been shut off, which means that the cabin would have depressurized and everyone almost would have instantly or very quickly become like unconscious. And due to the altitude that they were at, which was higher than normal, and due to depressurization, that means that everyone would have instantly passed out and would have died very gently and very peacefully. Before it even hit the water, it would have passed away like hours before any of that. The difference here is that in the cockpit or like the captain's area, the oxygen is completely different than it is in the cabin. The oxygen going to the captain or the co-pilot and the pilot are different. Still wouldn't have had very much oxygen to last them that long, but they would have had more oxygen, and like their pressurization is completely different than that in the cabin. I'm gonna pick a color. So how do I like it? It's like not, I did this look a couple days ago and it came out way better, but like I'm vibing. You're guessing that whoever in control of the plane at this time was doing this intentionally, that they brought the plane to such high elevation that it would knock out like everyone unconscious and kill them. I know what you're saying. You're probably like, Chloe, what about like oxygen masks? Well, sweetheart, oxygen masks only work at such level of depressurization and altitude. Due to the depressurization and the altitude and elevation that they were at, the mask would have been useless. Like I said, everyone outside of the cockpit would have passed out and then died basically immediately or quickly after. They really wouldn't have had any idea what was going on. They would have just kind of become delirious and again just passed out. There's lots of conspiracy theories around this one because it's a good one. It's a good one. It's never been solved. People are like, what's going on? Nobody knows what's going on. One of the main conspiracy theories is that aliens did it. Maybe? Another one was that the plane flew through some like time warp or some black hole and it's just gonna like appear someday. There's a show out that's like that right now. There's lots of theories, man. There's so many theories around what happened. Most likely what happened was a very dramatic case of pilot suicide. That's so over the top. That's so over the top. And whose name was Zahari Madshaw. He apparently had just recently separated with his wife and was just having issues and was just not in a great place. And I understand that. I don't understand flying a plane and then killing everybody on board and then just disappearing with the plane into the ocean. I don't understand that. He had a flight simulator at home, and while we were going through that flight simulator, they had discovered that he had flown the same exact path prior to executing what he had done. It's just so dramatic. But at the end of the day, these are all kind of like assumptions because we don't really know who was in the cockpit. We don't really know what was going down. We don't know anything. It's pretty obvious that it wasn't a terrorist attack, as most terrorist groups would take like responsibility for such an event, and that never happened. I quickly did my eyeliner off camera. Not to mention, so I said earlier about how the plane kind of like ducked its swing and kind of like went over Pune, Malaysia. So that's actually where the captain was from, like Zahari. That's where he lived. Take what you want from that. I said how it most likely had like crashed into the ocean and just kind of like exploded into millions of pieces. They have this one piece of they have different pieces of debris. They do have this one piece of debris. That piece of debris is that the wings had been like there's like, I don't know anything about aviation. Wings had been like the flaps had been down, which means like it was preparing for a landing, I think, or it was lowering itself or something like that. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. And so there's this other theory. The plane ran out of fuel and then just glided for several miles, which kind of makes it impossible that they're ever gonna find the actual plane. But right now they're just kind of looking at where they think it would have kind of nosedived and exploded. But if the likelihood that it kind of glided in more southwest to Antarctica, they're not really gonna be able to find anything. It's just so sad. All of it's just so sad. I'm gonna do my eyelashes off camera real quick. So 6 months before all of this even went down, US aviation watchdogs had put out that the Boeing 777 was not great. It actually had cracks in them, not all of them obviously, but enough of them that they were like, yo, guess what guys, cracks. So guess what plane was a Boeing 777? If you guessed Malaysia Airlines flight 370, you, my friend, are correct. Literally 2 days before Malaysia Airlines flight 370 took off, watchdogs had sent out like this, oh, guess what guys, they had found a 15-inch crack in a Boeing 777. Quickly after this was released, media outlets were basically like, this had nothing to do with that because the planes had different antennas or something. And then a really creepy thing that I came across on like Twitter and TikTok was this account where this guy had received this really creepy kind of voicemail, and I'm gonna put the clip in now.
Delta, Alpha, November, Golf, Echo, Romeo, Sierra, Oscar, Sierra, India, Tango, India, Sierra, Delta, India, Romeo, Echo, Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Yankee, Oscar, Uniform, Tango, Oscar, Echo, Victor, Alpha, Charlie, Uniform, Alpha, Tango, Echo, Bravo, Echo, Charlie, Alpha, Uniform, Tango, India, Oscar, Uniform, Sierra, Tango, Hotel, Echo, Yankee, Alpha, Romeo, Echo, November, Oscar, Tango, Hotel, Uniform, Mike, Alpha, November, 0429.
Where the original came from at Stayed Away. His profile is still up, but a lot of his stuff has been deleted. They're using military alphabet, and so what it directly translates into, I'm gonna read it off because my brain can't, whatever, I'm just gonna read it off. Danger, SOS, it's dire for you to evacuate, be cautious, they are not humans, SOS, danger, SOS. So it's not said that this came from the Malaysia flight, but it's speculated that it did. This is a conspiracy theory. It's not necessarily true. So straight away I started getting like weird DMs and just weird threats, and I will put them right up here for you to look at. Conspiracy like theory was supposed to be that the end of the world was supposed to be on April 18th, 2018. It's almost April 18th, 2021. So obviously that didn't work out. I'm sorry. Again, it was a conspiracy theory. We don't know where it came from. We don't know if he made it up. We don't know. The thing that I have an issue with when things like this become a conspiracy theory is like, forget that these are people. Like 239 lives were lost. That's bigger than a conspiracy theory. Important to remember the people who lost their lives on flight 370. Guys, so this is the look for the week. Do we like it? I really like it. I really like the colors. I think I could have done the execution better, so that's why it's kind of like up close, kind of gross, but whatever, it looks good. Yeah, so that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any more like information, like leave it in the comments. Like, I'm very intrigued and invested in this case. There are ongoing expeditions and it's not fully closed. There's a lot of private investigations going on. I apologize that I didn't get to Nibiru this week. I honestly forgot, and also it's one of those kind of cases where it's like, oh, we're all gonna die in like 2018, and it's like, it's 2021, so it's not as exciting. If you have any recommendations, please put them in the comments below. Please share, like, follow, subscribe. Hang out with me every week. Do it. I promise it'll get better. Thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week.